It didn't explode. There was no mushroom cloud. No sirens, no warning, just a faint blue glow in the dark. In 1987, in Goiânia, Brazil, two men entered an abandoned medical building looking for scrap metal. The clinic had been left behind after a legal dispute. No security, no supervision, no one responsible. Inside, they found a heavy radiotherapy machine. They dismantled it, piece by piece. Hidden within it was a sealed capsule containing cesium-137, a highly radioactive isotope used in cancer treatment. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know what it could do. When they finally broke open the protective casing, they found a fine powder. It glowed blue, softly, beautifully, almost hypnotic. It didn't look dangerous. It looked fascinating. The material was taken to a scrapyard owned by Dever Alves Ferreira. Friends and family gathered to see the strange glowing substance. Small amounts were shared. Some people rubbed it on their skin. Children touched it. A 6-year-old girl played with it, enchanted by the light. No one understood that they were handling intense radioactive material. Radiation does not burn like fire. It damages cells silently at the molecular level. At first, the symptoms felt ordinary. Nausea, vomiting, fatigue, like food poisoning, like a virus, but the symptoms worsened. Painful skin lesions appeared, hair began to fall out. Weakness intensified. Among those exposed was Dever's wife, Maria Gabriela Ferreira. She had been captivated by the glowing powder. But as her family grew increasingly ill, she began to suspect that the substance might be responsible. She insisted that the material be taken to health authorities. When the capsule was finally brought to the local health surveillance office, a Geiger counter was used to examine it. The device erupted with rapid, alarming clicks. The city had been contaminated. By the time authorities understood what they were dealing with, the radioactive material had already spread across homes, buses, sidewalks, and entire neighborhoods. Emergency response teams began isolating affected areas. Entire blocks were evacuated, houses were demolished, soil was removed, personal belongings were destroyed. More than 100,000 people were screened for contamination. Officially, 4 people died from acute radiation syndrome in the weeks that followed: 6-year-old Lyde das Neves Ferreira, Maria Gabriela Ferreira, Israel Batista dos Santos, Admilson Alves de Souza. These were the confirmed immediate fatalities. There were no hidden mass deaths. But the consequences did not end there. Dozens suffered severe radiation burns and long-term medical complications. Survivors required surgeries, ongoing treatment, and monitoring. Radiation increases long-term cancer risk statistically, silently. Not every later illness can be directly attributed, but the biological impact was undeniable. The psychological impact was just as profound. Fear spread through the city. Some survivors faced stigma and discrimination long after decontamination was complete. Radiation is uniquely terrifying because it cannot be seen, smelled, or felt until it is too late. The Goiânia accident became the largest radiological accident in history outside of a nuclear power plant. Unlike the Chernobyl disaster in 1986, there was no reactor explosion. Unlike the Fukushima disaster in 2011, there was no natural catastrophe triggering the event. There was only negligence, a legal dispute, an abandoned building, and a radioactive source left unsecured. Cesium-137 has a half-life of about 30 years. That means that after 3 decades, half of its radioactivity remains. After 60 years, about a quarter. The contaminated material collected in Goiânia was sealed and placed in reinforced storage facilities built to contain it safely for generations. The radioactive waste still exists, confined, monitored, controlled. But Goiânia itself is not a radioactive city today. Life returned, the streets reopened, the contamination was contained. What remained was memory and regulation. The disaster led to stricter international controls on radioactive source tracking, storage, and disposal. Protocols were strengthened worldwide. Science was not the villain. The same isotope that harmed these families is used daily, safely, in cancer treatment. The failure was systemic. Responsibility became blurred. Oversight stalled, and something dangerous was left behind. The most unsettling part of this story is not the scale. It is the silence. There was no explosion, no global broadcast panic, just a glow, a curiosity, a chain of small human decisions. The greatest radiological accident in history outside of a nuclear power plant did not begin with war. It began with 2 men searching for scrap metal and a blue light in the dark.